Welcome everyone to this Friday night Bible study. We certainly want to welcome you to this very important teaching. We've been dealing with a topic, just really breaking free from the delusions. It's been getting a lot of activity on YouTube. I'm very excited about that. Getting a lot of comments, a lot of views, and so we're excited about that. And we want to just continue the momentum of this by bringing this very important information. Because the devil, man, he's a deceiver. He has a lot of people out here tricked. They're tricked right from the church. That's a sad thing. You go into church every week thinking that you're doing all the right things, and here you all caught up in a web of lies and deception. And so we're going to be sharing a lot of information. I'm just giving this topic, this whole series, a green light. We're going to exhaust these topics. I was going to just deal with a few of them, and then kind of just put them out there for you guys to do some of your own research. But I'm going to shed some light on these topics as we go through from week to week until I've given you enough information so you feel comfortable and satisfied that you're walking with your eyes wide open, your ears are open, and you're walking in clear daylight, and you're not being deceived and you're ready to walk off a cliff and don't even know it. So we're going to deal with these things this week and these coming weeks. So be prayerful of the Most High. Continue to give me the information that I need. Give me the wisdom to drop this information on you guys so you can get where you need to be walking in confidence with the Most High Elohim. All right. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and get started today. Go ahead and pray. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshenu b'mitzvotah v'tzivanu la'asuk v'divri Torah. Bless you, Yahweh Elohim, King of the universe, who command us to engross ourselves in the words of your Torah, and through which we're able to do what? Sanctify ourselves. So we want to continue to do that. We always count it an honor and privilege to do just that. So with that, we're going to go ahead and share our screen and get ready to get into this very important lesson. All right, so you should be seeing my screen now. All right. So we're talking about breaking free from strong delusions. This is part 3. And we're going to be discussing the New World Order today. This is some hot stuff. New World Order. And you can see many of the things we're going to be covering in future lessons. This concept of peace on earth and global citizenship and replacement theology and the restored nation of Israel. Someone called me today about space travel. Yes, we're going to be dealing with space travel. All right, so we're going to be dealing with that. And all religions lead to one God. Speaking about that space travel, we're going to bring some clarity to that. Absolutely. We're going to be dealing with the pre-tribulation rapture doctrine. That's one of the devil's ace in the hole. He's looking to mess up about 90% of the church with that false doctrine. So we're going to bring some clarity to that as well. But let's go ahead and get started. Again, breaking free from strong delusions, part 3, the New World Order. Now remember, everything we discussed to help us understand Satan's working in this world, we need to remember these things. I'm going to go over it very quickly, just so I can keep this information before you. We want to remember these things, critical. Satan deceives the whole world. That's a huge one, right? He deceives the whole world. It's not just a few people he's got in his pocket that's following his foolishness. He's a master deceiver, and he's in the process of deceiving the whole world. Secondly, he does not stand in truth. And when he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own resources because he is the father of lies. Satan is the god of this world, and what is he doing? He's blinding the minds of those who are perishing. So everybody that's got what my wife would call gasoline draws on right now, on their way to hell, they're going because they're blinded. There's some people that chose the devil. We know there's some people that worship the devil. But some people think they're going the right way, and they're blinded. And that's a problem. And we're really addressing those individuals who really think they're doing the right thing, that way that seems right to them, but it's leading to destruction. We want to fix that, all right? He transforms himself into an angel of light. So he's literally got people believing that he's the light bearer, bringing truth to them when he's nothing but a false, bringing nothing but false information, right? This one is serious. He has ministers who preach and teach about Messiah, but they're actually ministers for his deception. That's a horrible one right there. You're going to church on Sunday. I know all these Sunday worshipers going to church, listen to the message, and you think you're hearing truth, and here you are hearing from a guy who's on assignment by the devil. And some of these folks are doing it with their eyes wide open. I'm talking about they're literally on assignment by the devil. And finally, the devil is our adversary. He walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he can devour. So here's the key now. If you're not vigilant and sound-minded, he can very likely devour you. That's a problem. You want to be very, very careful of that. Not to be getting tricked and trapped by the devil, right? So the bottom line is, Satan is deceiving the whole world. And the question is why? What is his end game, right? Why is Satan deceiving the whole world? And his goal is, he wants to bring to the world Satan's demon seed, the lawless one. He wants to bring to the world Satan's demon seed, the lawless one, his false Messiah, the Antichrist. Now, we know there's an Antichrist spirit that's in the world, and it's been in the world for over 2,000 years. We're not talking about just the spirit of Antichrist. We're talking about the physical form, the man, the lawless one, the Antichrist. And he wants to bring about his new world order. And so we're going to be talking about these things today. Now, the goal of the new world order is to bring one world leader, to bring one world government, to bring one world religion, and to bring one world currency. We won't be dealing with all these topics today, but we will address every one of these during this series of lessons, okay? So he wants to bring these four things. This is the goal of the New World Order, to bring the one world leader, the one world government, the one world religion, and one world currency. And we already know that's going to happen. These are all doctrines that have been laid out in scripture. He's going to be controlling everything, including your ability to buy and sell. So we will cover some of this today. But before we continue, I want to make something very clear. In fact, crystal clear. With all of his planning and all of his deceptions, Satan is aware of his inevitable defeat. Don't be mistaken. He knows he's defeated. A defeat that is certain and unavoidable. There's nothing he can do about it. He can plot, he can trick, he can do everything he can do. He can try to rally as many people as he possibly can. He can get all of his imps and demons and all the stuff he's got at his disposal. But his defeat is inevitable and unavoidable. From the day that Yahweh blasted him to the earth, he knew he had failed. Yet Satan is determined to destroy Yahweh's creation. His goal is to lead mankind into rebellion in order to get man to worship him and end up in the devil's hell. He knows that's his destination, and he's kind of like some of these knuckleheads that caught AIDS. Well, if I got AIDS, I'm going to give it to somebody else. I ain't going to be the only one jacked up. So the devil the same way. If I'm going to hell, I'm going to take as many of these people as I possibly can with me. I'll let them have some pleasure. I'll let them toot some coke. I'll let them, have all the sex they want. And, I even give some of them opportunity to make a lot of money, right? And I'll give them a chance to make millions and even billions. I don't have no problem with that because it's all going away anyway. My goal, the devil's saying, is to help you to end up in a devil's hell. So Satan started his agenda in the Garden of Eden when he led Adam and Eve into rebellion against Elohim. Because he wants to be like the Most High. He wants to destroy and pollute as much of our Father's creation as possible. These are a couple of goals he's got. We already know he wants to be like the Most High. But along with that, he hates Yahweh's creation. And he wants to pollute it. He wants to destroy it. Because what is he? He's Beelzebub. He's Lord of the Flies. He's Lord of the Dung. He likes stuff that's decaying, that's rotten. that's destroyed. That's what he is. He's a foul individual, and he wants to bring destruction everywhere he goes. So even though Satan knows he can't win, he still wants to push his own agenda and take as many souls he can with him to a burning hell. That's his plot. That's his plan. So with that said, let's set the stage for the coming conflict. Satan successfully gets Adam and Eve to rebel against Yahweh, leading to a prophecy of his defeat. Genesis 3:15, the first prophecy of the devil's defeat. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. So enmity, what exactly is that? Intense hostility, the state of being an enemy. You bumping heads, you feuding constantly. There's no pleasure in being in each other's presence. It's just enmity, intense hostility. So Genesis 3:15 says, and Yahweh speaking, I will put enmity between you, Satan, and the woman, and between your seed, Satan, and her seed. So in this world, Satan has a seed. There have been movies that's come out. I can't remember that one. Somebody's daughter. It was some woman who ended up her husband and everybody in the neighborhood was trying to get her to have sex with a demon, right? In order for her to get impregnated by the devil. Well, the devil's been putting this stuff in our face for years, for decades. I remember this from a child, right? He has been promoting this because he has a seed. It's prophesied that he would have a seed. And there's another seed from Eve. So here are two main opponents in this world. There's these two main opponents operating in the world. There's Satan's seed and there's Eve's seed. And he shall bruise your devil seed's head. Okay, you gotta be clear about that. So this is what it looks like. He will strike your head, serpent, and you will strike his heel. So if you get the picture of that, if you can strike the head of a devil or a serpent, then you pretty much destroyed him. He's a done deal. You get all that tongue, that tail, and all that stuff behind him. But if you control the head, you got him, right? That's what it's clearly saying. When you strike that head of a snake, you defeat it. You have taken away its power. So Genesis 3:15 again says, and you shall bruise his heel. This is the fate of the devil. Throughout history, Satan has been attacking the seed of the woman, hoping to destroy the woman's seed before he had a chance to defeat him. Throughout history, this has been his plan. Notice now, with some of the different pagan gods, many of them have sacrifices where they would literally sacrifice their children to these idols, which they will put furnaces in their laps and literally sacrifice their babies to the furnace. Now, that was designed. The devil knows a child will be born. And when this child is born, I got to look out for him because there's going to be some child showing up that's going to come to bruise my head. Notice again, when the word got out that Yeshua was born, King Herod, a satanic king, murdered the children 2 years old and under during the season that Yeshua was born. Just murdering children, right? How evil do you have to be to do something like that? In order to try to defeat Yeshua, he tempted him and tried to get him to get out of position so he wouldn't be able to fulfill his mission. Because if he had fallen to these temptations, he would not have been able to bruise his head. But we know he was able to stand the test. And eventually, he had him crucified. But this only bruised Yeshua's heel and led to great power for Yeshua's followers. He said, you shall receive power after that the Holy Spirit has come upon you. The Holy Spirit was not made available to have his death, burial, and resurrection. So again, Satan wants to be like the Most High, but all he is a counterfeit. He duplicates what he sees from the Most High Elohim. Now, Satan has a seed in this world, and he's being prepared for such a time as we have today. And there's a bloodline in this world that has been imprinted by him. There's families that's been protecting this bloodline. We may even get into some of that during this lesson. Not today's lesson, but during this series, we may cover some of that information. And for a season, this seed of the devil, he will rule the world. That's been prophesied, right? Nothing we can do about that. I'm not teaching you these things so you can, get up going into fasting and praying and say, okay, we're going to defeat this seed of the devil. He's already defeated. He's going to show up on the scene. He's going to rule for a season. He's going to wreak some havoc for a minute. But when everything's said and done, he's going to end up in the same hell as the devil. But I just want to make sure that you're informed, because these individuals, when they show up on the scene, they're going to be coming with a lying wonder and with deceptive power. And so for many, they're going to be wandering after him. Because right now, we're in a state of being in this world where the leadership is falling apart. There's no clear leaders in the world. And there's problems presenting themselves that no one can solve. And so all countries right now are looking for a leader to show up. See, the devil's very smart. He is setting the scene for his man, this lawless man, to show up on the scene, and he's going to come with solutions. And when he comes with these solutions, people are going to marvel after him. And they're going to be saying, what does scripture say he's going to be talking about? Who can make war with this man, right? Who can make war with him? He's got the answers, right? So you got to realize something now. There's not a middle ground here. There's not a gray area, right, that you can choose. You can say, I'm going to be for the devil or against the devil. I'm going to be for Yeshua or against Yeshua, or I'm just going to be on my own. There is no on your own, right? There is no on your own. You got to make a choice, right? There's Yeshua's side and there's Satan's side. You're on Yeshua's side by choice, by decision you make to accept Yeshua as Savior. That's a choice you have to make. He gave you free will, and you have to make a decision to choose him, or you can choose to reject him. That's your choice. But you won't be on Yeshua's side by default. You're going to be on Yeshua's side because you made a decision to choose him. Now, but you are on Satan's side by default, just by being born in this world. You're born in sin. You were shaped in iniquity. And so you're already in sin. The thing you got to do is make a decision to come out of sin and choose the Most High Elohim. All right? So look at John 3, starting at verse 16. For Elohim so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. For Elohim sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world. He didn't do it to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. So he gave us an out. He gave us a solution for the sin problem. Those that's born in sin, that's every man born of woman, born in sin, all you got to do is choose Yeshua. He's the solution to your sin problem, okay? But he that believes on him is not condemned. That's the key. Any person that chooses to believe on him, you're not condemned. But look at this next part. But he that believes not, he's condemned already, because he has not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of Elohim. And that's Yeshua HaMashiach. You got to make a decision to choose him. So with that said, let's set the stage for the coming conflict. So where did all this begin? Because you need to have some knowledge of the past. You can't just go to the book of Revelation and figure this thing out. You can't go to the Gospels and figure this thing out. You can't go to Paul's letters or even Peter's letters and figure this thing out. You've got to go to the past. In order to understand the coming world government, you got to go back in history. And in order to understand the book of Revelation, we must go back in history. So we're going to go back to the Bible and the first Babylon. But this is where it all started. The first Babylon was the first empire in the world. It was based in the land of Mesopotamia, and it's basically where current day Iraq is, and it's ruled by the Sumerians. Now, these are people who came together to challenge Yahweh. And to set the stage, this is post-flood. So everybody were together, and the Most High gave them instruction to be fruitful, to multiply, to replenish the earth, and to subdue it, right? Just go ahead and subdue the earth and be scattered and populate the entire world. That's what the Most High wanted. But they chose not to do that. They built a large tower known as the Tower of Babel. They built the tower to challenge Elohim and to prove their greatness. This empire was in total rebellion to Yah and was under the rule of King Nimrod, son of Cush. These were the inhabitants of the earth after the flood, and they came together to challenge the dominion of Yahweh. Now, you can read about a portion of this in Genesis chapter 11. However, there's another book that's available that'll shed more light. It's called the Book of Jasher. It's an ancient book, the Book of Jasher. It's from the Apocrypha. It gives much more detail. And there's also a reference in the Bible, just so you know. The book of Joshua talks about the book of Jasher. 2 Samuel talks about the book of Jasher. And 2 Timothy also references it. And so that lets you know, you got 3 prophets that discussed the book of Jasher. So that brings credibility to it. So we're going to go to Jasher chapter 9 and start at verse 20. And King Nimrod reigned securely, and all the earth was under his control, and all the earth was of one tongue and words of union. And all the princes of Nimrod and his great men took counsel together, Put, Mizraim, Cush, and Canaan, and their families. And they said to each other, Come, let us build ourselves a city, and in it a strong tower, and its top reaching heaven, and we will make ourselves famed, so that we may reign upon the whole world, in order that the evil of our enemies may cease from us, and that we may reign mightily over them, and that we may not become scattered, which is the will of the Most High, that we may not become scattered over the earth on account of their wars. And they all went before the king, and they told the king these words. And the king agreed with them in this affair, and he did so. And all the families assembled, consisting of about 600,000 men. And they went to seek an extensive piece of ground to build the city and the tower. And they sought in the whole earth, and they found none like one valley at the east of the land of Shinar, about 2 days' walk. And they journeyed there, and they dwelt there. And they began to make bricks and burn fires to build the city and the tower that they had imagined to complete. And the building of the tower was unto them a transgression and a sin. And they began to build it, and whilst they were building against Yahweh, the Elohim of heaven, they imagined in their hearts to war against him and to ascend into heaven. And all these people and all the families divided themselves into 3 parts. This is amazing. Not only do they want to defy him by not doing his will, but they literally have it in their heart to go up into the heaven and to try to kill the creator of heaven and earth. That's how wicked these people were. And the first said, we will ascend into heaven and fight against him. The second said, we will ascend to heaven and place our own gods there and serve them. And the third part said, we will ascend to heaven and smite him with bows and spears. Foolish. And Elohim knew all their works and all their evil thoughts. And he saw the city and the tower which they were building. And when they were building, they built themselves a great city and a very high and strong tower. And on account of its height, the mortar and bricks did not reach the builders in their ascent to it. And to those who went up had completed a full year. And after that, they reached to the builders and gave them the mortar and the bricks. Thus it was done daily. So it took them a long time just to go up and down this place. And behold, these ascended and others descended the whole day. And if a brick should fall from their hands and get broken, they would all weep over it. And if a man fell and died, none of them would look at him. And Yahweh knew their thoughts. And it came to pass, when they were building, they cast their arrows towards the heavens. And all the arrows fell upon them, filled with blood. And when they saw them, they said to each other, surely we have slain all those that are in heaven. But this was from Yahweh, in order to cause them error, and in order to destroy them from all the face of the ground. And they built the tower and the city, and they did this thing daily until many days and years were elapsed. And Elohim said to the 70 angels who stood foremost before him, to those who were near to him, saying, come, let us descend and confuse their tongues, that one man shall not understand the language of his neighbor. And they did so unto them. And from that day following, they forgot each man his neighbor's tongue. And they could not understand to speak in one tongue. And when the builder took from the hand of his neighbor lime or stone, which he did not order, the builder would cast it away and throw it upon his neighbor, that he would die. And they did so many days. They killed many of them in this manner. And those who were left amongst them, they knew and understood the evil which was coming upon them. They forsook the building, and they also became scattered upon the face of the whole earth. And they ceased building the city and the tower. Therefore he called that place Babel. For there Yahweh confounded the language of the whole earth. Behold, it was at the east of the land of Shinar. So this is the story of the first Babylon. Babylon, a world empire that sought to come together to challenge our creator. From this empire, we have the pagan gods that would be worshipped all over the world. Pagan gods, father god Nimrod, who's called the sun god. Mother goddess Semiramis, she's the moon goddess. And then the son of sun god, Tammuz, who's the sun god reborn. So all paganism, all polytheism sprang from these three individuals right here. And when the languages changed, all these people, when they began to resettle across the world, they took their goddesses with them, their gods and goddesses with them, and all their pagans, all the different tokens that they had created. They changed the name based upon their new language, but they still maintain this polytheistic way of worship all over the world. Now let's recap this event, because there are some critical facts that we must glean from this historical event. First of all, what was the mission of Nimrod and his followers? The first one, to build a city and a strong tower to reach the heaven. Secondly, to reign upon the whole world, or one world government. Third, to avoid being scattered across the world. Fourth, to war against the Most High. And 5, to ascend into the Most High's high place. Next, what did Yahweh say about their mission? And this is critically important. We're in Genesis 11, starting at verse 5. Then Yahweh came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. And Yahweh said, this is Yahweh speaking, right? Look, they are one people, and they all have one language. And this is what they begin to do. And now they are not going to be withheld from doing whatever they plan to do. Come, let us go there and confuse their language, so that they do not understand one another's speech. And Yahweh scattered them from there over the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city. That is why its name was called Babel, because there Yahweh confused the language of all the earth, and from there Yahweh scattered them over the face of all the earth. But here's the key. he made a very powerful statement. I hope you heard it. The Most High said, and now they are not going to be withheld from doing whatever they plan to do. The only thing that stopped them from being able to build the way they wanted to was their language, right? Take a look at this now. So here's the question. As they were leaving the Tower of Babel, what changed with these people? What was the critical thing that changed? They could not understand to speak in one tongue. They could not understand to speak in one tongue. In other words, their language changed. But that's not the end, though. But did their purposes change? That's the critical thing. Did their purposes change? Those 5 things that was laid out, did those things change? Now, these people came from the 3 sons of Noah, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, right? From those 3 men, all the nations of the world were created. They were born from those 3 men. These are the descendants of Noah. And through Shem, Ham, and Japheth, they populated the entire world. And guess what? Their purposes never changed. They retained that same mentality. And so everything we are witnessing in our present time is all about creating another form of what Nimrod did back at the Tower of Babel. So that Satan is in complete dominion of this world. He put the idea in Nimrod's mind. He's put it in Hitler's mind. He's put it in Mussolini's mind. He's put it in many different people's mind, down through the centuries, to try to conquer the whole world, right? Alexander the Great, all these men, they lived to try to dominate and to rule and to reign the whole world. That's always been Satan's plan. He's always trying to find a man that would do it. But now his seed is about to come on the scene. So Satan deceives through religion. And their polytheistic religious beliefs and desires for one world government and the war against the Most High has never changed. So this is, again, a chart of the different gods based upon where they settled. We know in Babylon there was Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz. But, in Egypt, I only want to talk about this because, Ra, Isis, and Horus, the eye of Horus shows up in a lot of places. We're going to see this in a later part of this lesson. So that's one reason why I put this chart up here. The eye of Horus, the reborn sun god, right? He's going to show up in a place that it has no business being. Let's continue on. But Nimrod is he's a mighty hunter, the scripture calls him. But what he really was a hunter of men's souls, because he let the devil use him mightily. And his goals and dreams are living to this day. So the events at Babel are very important to the Freemasonry, the religious beliefs. We're going to talk about that for a minute because the Freemasonry are at the foundation of what's going on with this New World Order. So Albert G. Mackey, he wrote the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry, and he has some things to say. At Babel, Oliver says that what has been called, they say, spurious Freemasonry. In other words, they're saying a false Freemasonry. It took its origins. So we're gonna explain that, right? Oliver talks about a false Freemasonry. That is to say, the people there abandoned the worship of the true God. And so what he's saying here, that's false. They did not abandon the worship of the true God, but I'm gonna explain that in a moment. And by their dispersion, they lost all knowledge of his existence and of the principles of truth upon which Freemasonry is founded. Hence it is that the old instructions speak of the lofty Tower of Babel as the place where language was confounded and Freemasonry lost. So this statement here, the people who are believing in Freemasonry, they say there's some error to this idea here. Okay, we're gonna make it plain. So when they are talking about the worship of the true God, it is not Yahuwah, right, or Yahweh that they're talking about. They're literally talking about Lucifer, their light bearer, and that's what they call him. they called him Lucifer, their light bearer, right? So when they talk about the true God, they're talking about Lucifer. But you don't find that out until you get to the 33rd degree of Masonry, right? They got people, you can't even be a Mason unless you're in some form of religion, and they don't care what. As long as you're religious, you can be a Mason. Because they know if you're religious, then all they gotta do is train you rightly in their mind, in their view, and they can teach you how to worship the right God, in their opinion, who they call Lucifer, okay? Let's continue. So what do they say about Nimrod? The legend of the craft in the old constitutions refer to Nimrod as one of the founders of Freemasonry. Thus, in the York manuscripts, #1, we read, at the making of the Tower of Babel, there was masonry first, much esteemed of. And the king of Babylon, who was called Nimrod, was a mason himself and loved well masons, right? So they're attributing their founder of this Masonic order to be Nimrod. Let's read on. And the Cook manuscript thus repeats the story. And this same Nimrod began the Tower of Babylon, and he taught to his workmen the craft of masonry. And he had with him many masons, more than 40,000, and he loved and cherished them well. So he is the founder. He's the foundation stone for this whole religion. So King Nimrod was one of the founders of Freemasonry. Why? Because he led the movement of rebellion against Yahweh. They needed somebody that was a believer of a like mind of theirs. They're opposing Yahweh. And all these Masonics, and then you got people today who are pastoring churches that are Masonic and at the 33rd degree level. So that's contradictory. That's contradictory that a person would be a Mason and be a pastor of a so-called Christian church. That's contradictory. But that's a problem that people don't recognize who's sitting in the pews. They don't get it, right? And we'll say that's sad. It is sad. You got sincere people getting up on Sunday mornings, going to church, being taught by a Masonic religious person who believes in Lucifer. Right? It's a problem. The goal of Freemasonry is to finish the plan of Nimrod against Yahweh more fully. He wants world dominion, and this is an unspoken goal of the grand conspiracy known as the New World Order. It's their whole purpose to finish what Nimrod started. So history is about to repeat itself. The United States, right? This great experiment, United States. The Freemasons built the United States upon antichrist policies and resolved to worship pagan gods. And look at this now. This is the Washington Monument. The Washington Monument, by design, stands 555 feet tall. When you convert its height to inches, it stands 6,660 inches tall, or 666. By design, that's not an accident. You don't come up with a design and at a height, at its peak, it's going to be 6,660, right? 666. That's by design. And so what do you have here? This is the Great Seal of the United States. The Great Seal. What does it say? Annuit coeptus. He, God, has approved our undertaking. What that means. This is a Merriam-Webster's dictionary, confirming that definition from the Latin. He, and that's little g, God, has approved our undertakings. This is the motto on the reverse of the Great Seal of the United States. In the lower portion of it, Novus Ordo Seclorum. Now they define this as saying a new succession of ages. But they got that portion a little bit in error. Let's clarify that. Novus, that does stand for new. But you can see clearly, ordo is for order, right? And seclorum, centuries or ages. So novus ordo seclorum, new order of the ages. So annuit coeptus novus ordo seclorum. He, God, little g, has approved our undertaking for a new order of the ages. So what is it all about? This is on the Great Seal of the United States, as well as on the United States dollar. So the tools that will be used to usher in the new world order of the ages bear this seal. It is the country, the United States, or Washington District of Columbia. And Columbia is nothing but a goddess, another type of Semiramis or Isis. This whole city is really built upon this goddess worship that they created there. So the tools are the United States government and the dollar, which is the financial tool that they're using. And who is the God that is approving their undertaking? Well, there's no mystery here. You can tell by the design. They are showing us clearly the eye of Horus right on the seal, which is a symbol that goes back to Lucifer. And again, I'm using the word Lucifer, the name Lucifer, because it's what they use in their documents. But Lucifer or Satan is the God that is approving their undertaking, because their mission is his mission to fight and war against the Most High Elohim. The pyramid is a symbol of strength, and its unfinished condition denotes the belief of the designers of the Great Seal that there was still work to be done. And notice this is from the cult of the all-seeing eye. So what is this work to be done? Finish the Tower of Babel. Because this work started from Babylon. So the United States was created to be the vessel to usher in the new world order of the ages that Lucifer approves. It's the reason it exists. No mistake. And these are the 13 families: the Freemans, the Russells, the Reynolds, the Onassis, Bundy, Rockefellers, the Astors, Kennedys, the Lai, Van Doynes, Collins, the DuPonts, the Rothschilds. These 13 families control the vast majority of the wealth of this world. And they are the hidden hand behind all this stuff that's going on in order to create this new world order. So secret societies, all about devil worship. As I indicated on last week in our previous lesson, these Greek letter organizations, the Divine Nine, which is nothing but a spinoff of Masonic. The Masonic Lodge is nothing but the granddaddy to all of these different Divine Nine Greeks that's in the various colleges. And I had to denounce that because I was part of the Divine Nine. And I can tell you clearly that when you pledge, the songs you sing and all that stuff, it is all to Greek gods. It is not to Yeshua. It is not to Yahweh. The songs and all the pledges and all the things that you decree is to Greek gods. And the Greek gods are nothing more than demons that have taken on Greek form, okay? So you're literally worshiping and serving the devil and demons in these fraternities and sororities, all these secret societies. It's nothing but devil worship. So the question is, where are you in this worldwide scheme? You got the Eye of Horus at the very top, which represents Satan. The Crown Council of 13, those are 13 names I just mentioned. The Committee of 300, the next 300 most powerful families and individuals in the world. The sub-family elite, another layer of families. Rich and powerful sub-families. You got, all these different folk are into the hidden hand and Illuminati and all these various organizations, right? Then you got global think tanks, world financial control, world natural resource control, private corporations, world population control. We talked about that, right? You had Bill Gates, at that symposium, talking about population control and how it could be properly handled through the proper administering of pharmaceuticals. So you're talking about controlling population because the population is getting to be too large, and it can be done through pharmaceuticals. So that should be putting you on alert that you should not be just trusting your doctor to just be giving you any old kind of thing. Some medicines don't react properly, and your body was not designed for that in the first place. So you got to be very, very careful of that. All you got to do is listen to some of the warning. I got a prescription one day for something I had going on in my body. I got it home and read the warnings. And one of the things that's talked about was shrinking my spinal cord. Like, you got to be out of your mind. If you think I'm going to be taking a medication that's going to cause my spinal cord to shrink, how is that going to cause me to have good health? Foolishness. Foolishness. Below that, you've got government, media, religion, education, all part of this triangle, right? Human resources and labor unit control. And then below that, the ignorant people that are in the delusion. They don't even know it, right? They're just going along with everything and not aware that they're caught up in a mind game. Go ahead.
I just want to say, and I'm probably going back a step, but if you notice, the eye of Horus and a lot of these different symbols that are worn, okay, on necklaces, earrings, and these type of things, if you notice, those are geared to attract who? Black people. They're geared to us because the enemy set the stage of, well, you're African. This is a part of Africa. This represents your Blackness. This represents your Black pride. But what they don't realize is it's just a slap in the face to the Most High, especially for us.
That we call Hebrews.
Exactly. No question. So the enemy knows what he's doing when he's directing this to the Black people. Absolutely. And trying to make that part of our culture. Right. So everything that he does has a purpose to it. He has a purpose behind it, no question. He wants to be like the Most High. Right. So the Most High, he has a purpose. Absolutely. Those of us that are still here and walking today, we're not still here and walking for nothing. That's right. That's right. That's right. It's good stuff. And I tell you, the enemy has a plan, and he's using these things, and that's one of the reasons why our folk has got to wake up. And I see some people are supposed to be awoke to being Hebrew, but they're still wearing emblems and things that pertain to Egypt, Incas, and these different things. They need to completely wake up to this, the third eye, and recognize that this stuff is not about your heritage. But I want to play something very quickly about this New World Order, because this has been the plan forever. And I've mentioned before different presidents talking about New World Order. So I want you to hear George Bush talk about this.
Out of these troubled times, our fifth objective, a new world order can emerge, a new era, freer from the threat of terror, stronger in the pursuit of justice, and more secure in the quest for peace. An era in which the nations of the world, East and West, North and South, can prosper and live in harmony. 100 generations have searched for this elusive path to peace, while 1,000 wars raged across the span of human endeavor. And today that new world is struggling to be born. A world quite different from the one we've known. A world where the rule of law supplants the rule of the jungle. A world in which nations recognize the shared responsibility for freedom and justice.
He's not the only president that have talked about the New World Order. I know every president since George Bush has mentioned it more than one time. And I know Barack, he mentioned that philosophy frequently in his conversations. So that's the trend, and they all know it, including the MAGA president. He's even fully aware of it. He can talk about make America great again, but he's still fully aware of the ultimate plan to have the New World Order show up, right? So let's examine the work that has been going on behind the scenes. We're going to get ready to wrap this thing up soon, but I got to lay this foundation so you can understand how the hidden hand has been involved in the creation of this New World Order. So the United Nations was created for the purpose of ushering in the New World Order. The declarations of the United Nations was signed by 26 member states on January 1st, 1942. It consisted of China, Soviet Union, United Kingdom, and the United States, among others. And another good point, many of the presidents of the United States are also Masons. George Washington, he was the first president, and he was a Mason. This plan has been in the works before the first brick was laid on this new country in 1776. They already had the plan, which is why the design for the capital of this country has so many Masonic emblems and satanic emblems around it, because it's always been their plan. They talk about being a Christian nation, but it's not a Christian nation. It's a satanic nation. So China, Soviet Union, United Kingdom, United States, and other countries came together, and on the basis of the proposals submitted, the United Nations Conference convened on April 25th, 1945. So the United Nations Conference on international organization, they're trying to bring together an organization that's going to ultimately do away with individual nations to bring everybody under one umbrella. So at the time when this organization was being built, a very influential family was moving to secure the goals of the New World Order. Nelson Rockefeller, of the Rockefeller family, he was the Assistant Secretary of State for 9 months. That's all he needed. They put him in office for 9 months to get some critical things accomplished. When you look at the Rockefeller and American Dynasty book, it talks about some things here. On chapter 13, page 234, Nelson will be Assistant Secretary for a scant 9 months, but during this period, the Big Three's fateful meeting will take place at Yalta. The founding conference of the United Nations will be held in San Francisco, and the atomic bomb will be dropped on Hiroshima shortly after Potsdam. Basically, what they are saying is that during this time of major change, Nelson Rockefeller was made Assistant Secretary of State by FDR, right? Roosevelt, the president. He was present in the room when all of these events transpired. This reveals the hidden hand at work. Now notice again, as we read on, Rockefeller boarded a specially chartered plane filled with Latin American diplomats and headed for the founding conference of the United Nations in San Francisco. So he was working together with many countries to get this thing done. And these are early activities laying the foundation of the coming beast system. Now, the land that the United Nations is on, who provided the land for them to build their headquarters? You go to David Rockefeller's memoirs. It talks about on page 162 in chapter 12, building the Chase Manhattan Bank. The clinching factor in the decision to remain downtown turned out to be an opportunity we simply couldn't refuse. I had been working with Bill Zeckendorf, the flamboyant, larger-than-life real estate mogul who a decade earlier had sold my father the land on which the United Nations built its headquarters. So John D. Rockefeller Jr., son of the Standard Oil magnate, eventually donated the land for the UN headquarters. Let's continue reading. Nelson had been appointed by Mayor O'Dwyer to a committee attempting to persuade the United Nations organization to locate permanently in New York. Just hours before the UN decision was to be made, that Wiley Harrison suggested a 17-acre tract that the flamboyant real estate man William Zeckendorf was developing along the East River between the 42nd and 49th Streets called X City. Harrison, who was to be the principal architect, figured that Zeckendorf would be willing to sell for about $8.5 million. With spirits raised considerably, Nelson put through a call to his father, who offered personally to donate the entire amount. Why, Pa, that's most generous. $8.5 million. We're talking about in the 1940s, man. These guys, and they were probably the most wealthiest family on the planet at that time. So Nelson claimed he dispatched Harrison to find Zeckendorf, whom he located at the Monte Carlo Club, where the deal was concluded. So you got Nelson in the meetings, participating in some of the major events, including the dropping of the Hiroshima bomb and other major plans for the UN. And you got his father and his older brother working on getting the land and donating money so they can have the location for this building to be built. And this is simply documenting the Rockefeller family's involvement in the formation of the United Nations, though it has been hidden from the mainstream media. And I'm gonna point that out here. So why do you think that is? They were creating their one world government before the televisions began to become mainstream. So everybody didn't have a television in their home at this time. They were getting a lot of stuff done early in the game. After they built their foundations, they brought along the televisions to promote their mental programming that people are being deceived by even to this day. Now, here's the question. Who controls the media? Let's take a look at this. Notice the following comments from David Rockefeller, another of the Rockefeller brothers. We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Times Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. They had a cap on them printing their information for 40 years, 4 decades. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subjected to the lights of publicity during those years. But the world is more sophisticated and prepared to march towards what? A world government. And this is in his own book. This is in his own book. And finally, this last comment from David Rockefeller, page 405 of his memoirs. For more than a century, ideological extremists at either end of the political spectrum have seized upon well-publicized incidents such as my encounter with Castro to attack the Rockefeller family for the inordinate influence they claim we wield over American political and economic institutions. And it is huge. The power you guys wield is huge. Some even believe we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure, one world, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty and I am proud of it. I rest my case. One of the most powerful families on the planet. And this man is bold enough to put that in print in his own personal memoirs. that he's working to build a one world government at the expense of the interests of the United States. That's pretty serious. So we're going to get ready to wrap up with this. 1 Thessalonians, 5th chapter. But of the times and of the seasons, brethren, you have no need that I write unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of Yahweh so comes as a thief in the night. When they shall say, peace and safety, then sudden destruction come upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. But you, brethren, are not in darkness, that that day should overtake you as a thief. Ye are all the children of light, and the children of the day. We are not of the night, nor of darkness. Therefore let us not sleep, as do others. But let us watch and be sober, right? Come out of the delusion, and let us watch and be sober. For they that sleep, sleep in the night, and they that be drunken are drunken in the night. But let us, who are of the day, be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for a helmet, the hope of salvation. For Elohim has not appointed us to wrath, right? That's not our portion. He's going to pour out judgment on this earth, but that is not towards his people. Yahweh has not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by our Adon Yeshua HaMashiach, who died for us, that whether we wake or sleep, means either we're still alive or we passed away, we should live together with him, right? Wherefore, comfort yourselves together and edify or build yourselves up one to another, even as also you do. We have to recognize this. There are people working behind the scenes with a plan to accomplish things that are against the plan of the Most High Elohim. But too little, too late, you cannot win. Somebody said your arms are too short to box with Elohim. You don't have the juice to come up against him. You saw what happened to the Tower of Babel the first time. They thought they were going to be able to climb up there and defeat the Most High, and he just blew on that stuff, and they could no longer do what they were trying to do. He is just as powerful. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. So I don't care what the devil tries to do. I don't care what the devil's seed tries to do. I don't care what his imps and his powerful families try to do. The Most High will get the last laugh when everything is said and done. And those of his people that maintain faith and hope in Yeshua HaMashiach, we will win and the devil will lose. All right? So we're talking about who? The Elohim of Israel. Why? Because he is the one true Elohim. So we trust you've all been edified by this. So make sure you get a chance to go to the channel. Again, that's Dr. Russ E. Hoover. Do all those YouTube things. Make sure you subscribe, hit the thumbs up when you watch the videos, and hit that bell of notification so you can be notified when we drop that next video. And again, we just want to remind you to leave comments as well. We've had great comments the last couple of weeks, and I've had a chance to interact with some of our listeners. So I really appreciate and enjoy that as well. And so we're going to go ahead and pray out. So we're going to do the round of benediction. Even Yahweh B'Ishmereka. Ya'er Yahweh P'navaleka V'Komeka. Isa Yahweh P'navaleka V'Simleka Shalom. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face shine upon you and show you his favor. May Yahweh, if it comes upon you, and do what? Give you shalom, peace. Nothing missing, nothing broken, and nothing lacking. All right. So till next time, says I want to remind all of you that greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. And remember this now, I've been doing a lot of cheating. I've been reading the end of the book, and this is what I discovered. We win, and the devil loses. All right, saints. Until next time, this is Dr. Rusty Hoover. We are signing off. Shabbat Shalom.